overnight, a Democratic sweep in high-profile elections nationwide. In New York City, Democratic socialist Zohran Mamdani capping a stunning political rise, becoming the first Muslim mayor of the nation's largest city.
Together, we will usher in a generation of change.
The 34-year-old state assemblyman running a grassroots campaign, focusing on rising prices, including proposals like free buses and childcare and city-owned grocery stores. Defeating former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who ran as an independent, and said Mamdani would wreck the city's economy, also focusing on his past criticism of Israel and previous calls for defunding the police, which Mamdani says he no longer supports. President Trump threatening to withhold funds from the city if Mamdani won, and endorsing Cuomo late in the race. Last night, Mamdani addressing him directly.
Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
The president also a central figure in New Jersey, where Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill becomes the state's first Democratic woman governor, beating Trump-backed Jack Ciattarelli. In a race that was not as close as expected, Sherrill, a former Navy pilot and federal prosecutor, drawing parallels between her opponent and Trump throughout the race.
With this vote, you guys just scream from the rooftops.
In Virginia, Democrat and former CIA officer Abigail Spanberger making history as the state's first woman to be elected governor. Spanberger focusing on the economy while promising to stand up to President Trump's moves to slash the federal workforce.
In 2025, Virginia chose pragmatism over partisanship.
President Trump trying to distance himself from the election results, posting overnight Trump wasn't on the ballot and shutdown were the 2 reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight, according to pollsters. And while last night's results provide Democrats momentum heading into the 2026 midterms, no race last night will have as big an impact as the vote in California. And that's where voters overwhelmingly approved a plan for mid-decade redistricting, which could net Democrats as many as 5 seats in next year's election. This move, a direct result of President Trump's push to get red states to redraw their districts with the goal of winning more GOP seats.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So if you're a Democrat right now, you're probably pretty happy with the results. I'm going to show you some of the results. We're going to also ask AI what they thought about the results. And also historically, when we see a pattern like we just saw yesterday, what does that mean for the coming midterm? And you guys are going to be pretty shocked at this information, so I'm going to show you this. And so we're going to pack all that in this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video, share the video, and if you like content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so let's go ahead. First off, I want to show you, and this is coming from CBS News, and this is the latest information as I'm recording this video. So I just want to show you what's going on in some of these key races. Now, all of these races, they've declared a winner, okay? But they're still counting the votes. And so we have Mamdani here, 91% of the votes are in, and we have him at 50%. And so he's already been declared the winner. When it comes to the governor's race in New Jersey, you have Mikey Sherrill. She did win. And right now we have 95% of the vote in, and she is at 56.2, and Ciattarelli is at 43.2. Now, what's interesting is when you're looking at the polling, and I'll do a separate video later once we have all the votes in, and we're going to compare the final outcome to some of the latest polls. So I copied some of the latest polls right before this election. And then in the governor's race in Virginia, you have Spanberger. She won, and right now 97% of the vote is in, and she is at 57.5%. And Sears is at 42.3%. And so we're going to compare these. I just want to see, I'm just interested to see how that plays out. Now, one of the big races, and I'm going to be doing a separate video, so make sure you guys tune into this video because this is going to be very important about redistricting. So we're going to talk about Prop 50. And so Prop 50 did pass, and you have 71% of the vote in, And right now, the yes vote is 63.8%. The no vote is 36.2%. And so that has huge ramifications when it comes to redistricting. You're hearing a lot about these different states that are deciding they want to draw new lines right now. And this started with President Trump going to Texas and saying, hey, can you draw a new line so we can gain 5 seats? And that started. So now California said, okay, we're going to do the same thing. But they had to put it up for a vote because they had to temporarily pause the commission that they have. And so that's the reason why it was on the ballot in California. And California overwhelmingly says, yes, we are okay with redistricting temporarily. And it's going to be for a few years. And then I think in 2030, they will go back to the commission. And so this was a landslide victory for Democrats. They won across the board. Republicans weren't even close in many of these races. It wasn't even, I mean, it was called like after the first 30 minutes of the polls closing, which just, I mean, shows you that they weren't even close, these races. Okay, so now what I want to show you is I want to show you historically, because this is what's important. When we start looking at these polls and all the stuff that's out there, if we just go back in history, we can see this play. You know, this is a replay. Basically, this is a replay of 2018, and I'm going to show you the reason why I think that. But we see the patterns. The patterns are already out there. And so let me just show you what I'm talking about here. So let's zoom in, and we're going back. This goes all the way back to 1969. So from 1969 to 2025. And let me explain what we're looking at here. So if we're looking at 1969 here, if you had a Virginia, so in the Virginia governor's race, you had a Republican win. In the New Jersey governor's race, you had a Republican win. And the president was a Republican at that time. And then you saw in that midterm in 1970, you saw Republicans lose 12 House seats, and they gained 2 Senate seats. Okay, so you see the pattern there, Republican, 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 and then we saw what happened in the midterm. So this is kind of an outlier. This is a little bit different than what I'm going to show you, because that's not exactly what happened. But you see, even in a situation like this, you saw that Democrats were able to gain seats in that midterm election. Okay, usually that midterm election, it's a referendum against the president. And so when we're looking at the current situation, this could be a sign. This could be a really good sign for Democrats, that Democrats will be able to win in the midterms. So let's go back here, and we're going to go through all of these, and I'll go pretty quickly. I know some people have been saying you talk too long. Why can't you just put a video out for 2 minutes? Well, it's a lot. I have a lot of information to share with you guys, so 2 minutes is usually not going to be enough, but I will try to speed it up. Okay, so when it comes to, let's see, Virginia, you had a Republican governor there, and then you had a Democrat that won in New Jersey, and then you had a Republican president. So in 1974, that midterm, you see the switch there. So Republican president minus 48. So that means they lost 48 seats, okay, in the House. And then in the Senate, they lost 5 seats. Okay, going to 1977, you had a Republican win in Virginia for governor, and then you had in New Jersey a Democrat win. You had a Democrat as president, and then in 1978, you had that midterm, and Democrats lost 15 seats in the House, and they lost 3 seats in the Senate. Okay, in 1981, you had Democrats win in Virginia for governor, and in New Jersey, you had a Republican win, you had a Republican president, and in 1982, that midterm, we saw minus 26. So Republicans lost 26 seats in the House, and then they gained 1 seat in the Senate. 1985, in Virginia, you had a Democrat win for governor. In New Jersey, you had a Republican win for governor. You had a Republican president. And in 1986, that midterm, you saw that Republicans lost 5 seats in the House and 8 seats in the Senate. Okay, looking in 1989, Republican won in Virginia, Democrat won in New Jersey, and the president at that time was a Republican. And in 1990, in that midterm, we saw Republicans lose 8 seats in the House and 1 seat in the Senate. Okay, looking at 1993, you had a Republican win in Virginia as for governor, and then you had a Republican win in New Jersey for governor. You had a Democrat as president. In 1994, that midterm election, look at that. Democrats lost 52 seats. Okay, so this right here is an example of what we're seeing. It's in the reverse, but it's an example of what we're seeing. So you saw Republicans were able to pick up 52 seats in the House and then 8 seats in the Senate. If we see something like this, then Democrats will take control of the House and the Senate. Okay, if we see a scenario like this. Okay, let's move forward here. In 1997, you had a Republican win in Virginia for governor, and then in New Jersey, you had a Republican win as well, and then you had a Democrat as president. In 1998, you saw Democrats gain 5 seats. And then in the Senate, so 5 seats in the House, and in the Senate, they didn't gain anything. Now, this was during the impeachment of Clinton, okay? And that was a different time, and people really rallied around, or you could say Democrats really rallied around Clinton, and that was the main reason why. And we also had a good economy at that time, and that was the first time in a long time where we had an actual surplus, a government surplus, which doesn't happen anymore. You see what's going on. But that was a good time. People felt good, and partly because of this scandal, it was a referendum on the impeachment, basically, is what we saw. Okay, so in 2001, we had a Democrat win in Virginia for governor, and then we had in New Jersey, you had a Democrat win, and you had a Republican as president. And then in 2002, the midterm election, look what happened. Republicans gained 8 seats in the House, and then in the Senate, they gained 2 seats. This was after 9/11. It was like 14 months after 9/11, and people were really united to fight terrorism. And so it was a unique situation there. And so these were the 2 outliers, because we had significant events that kind of caused people to vote a certain way. In the midterms, it was a little bit different than it normally is. Okay, so let's move forward here. So in 2005, you had a Democrat win in Virginia for governor, and then you had a Democrat win in New Jersey for governor. You had a Republican as president. And so in 2006, that midterm, look what happened. Republicans lost 30 seats in the House, and they lost 6 seats in the Senate. Okay, and this is another situation. If we see something like this, Democrats will take control of the House and the Senate. Okay, so we're talking about in 2026, if we see a similar pattern as this and the other one that I showed you here, so this one here and this one here, if we see a similar pattern, then we're looking at a situation where Democrats are going to be able to win both chambers. Now, I'm telling you, when it comes to the Senate, it's going to be very, very hard for Democrats to take back the Senate. It's possible, but it's going to be hard. Okay, so looking at 2009, we had a Republican win in Virginia for governor, and then we had a Republican win in New Jersey for governor. You had a Democrat as president, and then in 2010, what did we see? We saw minus 63, so Democrats lost 63 seats. And so this is yet another situation where you have the same party winning in Virginia and winning in New Jersey, and then you have the opposition, so in this case, it was a Democrat as president, and then when you look at that midterm, you have a blowout, minus 63, so in the House, and then minus 6. So Democrats lost 6 seats in the Senate, as well as 63 seats in the House of Representatives. Okay, moving forward here, so we have a split here in 2013. So Democrat won governor in Virginia, and then a Republican won in New Jersey for governor. You had a Democrat as president. 2014, we saw Democrats lose 13 seats in the House and 9 seats in the Senate. Okay. Moving forward, 2017. Now, this is important. This is another one here. So in 2017, this is a replay because this is during President Trump's first administration. We saw a Democrat win in Virginia for governor. We saw a Democrat win in New Jersey for governor. You had a Republican as president, President Trump. And then in 2018, that midterm election, we saw Democrats win 40 seats. So Republicans lost 40 seats in the House, and then Republicans were able to gain 2 seats in the Senate. Okay, so this scenario would give the House to Democrats, but in the Senate, the Republicans would maintain their majority. And so in 2017 or 2018, that midterm, but in 2017, this is another scenario that we're looking at that historically is showing us that if you have that same party winning in both Virginia and New Jersey, that has an impact, or it could have an impact on the midterm election. Okay, 2021, we had a Republican win in Virginia for governor. We had a Democrat win in New Jersey for governor, and then you had a Democrat in office for president. And so Democrats lost 9 seats in the House, and they gained 1 seat in the Senate. And so now we're in the situation, 2025, you had a Democrat win in Virginia for governor. You had a Democrat win in New Jersey for governor. You have a Republican president. And this is to be determined. Okay, so what are we going to see in this scenario? And so hopefully you were able to see that pattern. So historically, we have seen this before. Okay, this is not the first time that we've seen the same party win in Virginia and in New Jersey. And the outcome is generally that party will do very well in the House and could potentially even win in the Senate. And so we're going to have to really watch that closely. Now, let me go ahead and show you. And so I asked AI a simple question. What do you think about the governor's races in 2025? And this was after the returns were in, after they'd already declared the winner. And this is what AI says. So, and we'll briefly go over this, but it says this gives Democrats momentum. Okay, so we pretty much know that, right? You know, Democrats pretty much, they swept the, you know, they won everything pretty much. And so it says here, winning both New Jersey and Virginia shows that Democrats can win tough races and hold key suburban ground heading into 2026. Okay, and then AI says here, number 2, it says Trump-backed losses. It says Republican candidates tied to Trump struggled, signaling potential voter fatigue with that brand of politics. So are people tired of Trump, basically? Are they at a point now where they're saying we need change, this is not working, the economy is still not doing well and all that, and they're going to the polls and they're voting against Trump? They're not voting against necessarily voting against the candidates, but if it's a Republican and they're supported by Trump or they're endorsed by Trump, they're voting against those people. So that could be something that we're seeing. And then here AI says economic focused wins, and it says both Democratic campaigns emphasized affordability and cost of living issues likely to dominate in 2026 midterm. And this is what I've been saying. Now, understand, they're just talking about the governor's race. They're not talking about the mayoral race. They're not talking about Prop 50 or anything like that. They're just talking about the 2 governor's races. But when I've talked about this plenty of times, when it comes to our economy, it's very important to focus on the economy, because that is what's going to drive people to the polls to vote. And they'll vote against whoever's in power if things are bad, if inflation is high, if the economy overall is bad, if people are losing their jobs. They are going to go out there and they're going to vote against that party that's in power. If we're looking at a government shutdown, they're going to go and they're going to vote as a result of that. And so that is what we're seeing, and that's what we saw yesterday. Okay, so let's go back here, and AI says midterm warning for GOP. Historically, the party winning these off-year races often performs better than expected in the following midterm. So we just talked about that. Okay, generally when we see a situation like this, it means that that party that's not in power is going to do well in the midterm. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the last one here, and AI says cautionary note. It says New Jersey and Virginia lean blue. So while this is good news for Democrats, it's not a guarantee for national results in 2026. And so they're saying, look, these states, they lean blue. And so this was kind of expected. But realistically, we saw blowouts. We're not seeing close races. So we could have at least seen a close race in New Jersey. That's what I was thinking we were going to see. But it wasn't even close. And so even though you can say, yes, these are blue states, we still can gather a lot of information just from the returns so far. And they're still counting the votes. So once they finish, then we'll look at the final numbers. But this is good news for Democrats. It's really good news for Democrats. Now, can Democrats take this and move forward and use this in the future for the midterms? We're going to have to see. Okay, because there are a lot of issues that are on the table right now that Democrats could be taking a hold of. And they're kind of quiet, to be honest with you. I mean, our economy is not doing well. They should be talking about that every day. When President Trump was running for president this second time, he talked about inflation every day. And what did he say? I'm going to fix it. Day one, I'm going to fix it really fast. And all the promises that he made. You need to have Democrats reminding the American people, hey, this is what President Trump was saying. And look where we are now. 9 months, 10 months in, and we still don't really see anything changing. We don't see anything changing when it comes to inflation. It's actually getting worse. And so Democrats need to hammer that home. It's the economy. It's the economy. It's the economy. The economy is not doing well. And so we'll have to see if they're able to capitalize on that. They were able to capitalize in the election, these governor's races and the Prop 50 and some of the other races that were out there. But will they be able to capitalize in 2026? And that's going to be the big question. But I want to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.